Hey, what's up guys? John here. What I'm going to share with you right now about commercial real estate, residential real estate, and this economy is going to change everything that you know about the world. This is unreal. This is unlike any former recession that we've ever been in and we ever will go through again. Look at this. This is absolutely crazy. So this website, I'm going to first share with you, I'm going to paint the picture of who's actually behind this to build credibility, because a lot of people want to write everything off today, right? So you have Bloomberg, the UK, you have the Minister of Denmark. You go through it: IKEA, Hewlett Packard, Oak Foundation, L'Oreal, Open Society, FedEx. You start to go through it, right? This isn't some type of fly-by-night corporation. These people have tons of capital, tons of power, and they're getting ready to use it. And if you think that what's happening in commercial real estate isn't going to be utilized for this change, you got another thing coming. Now, before I dive into it, today's video is sponsored by GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. We'd love to help fix your credit to put you in a position for success during the greatest wealth transfer of all time. Go there, schedule a free consultation at GreatCreditFast.com. We'd love to help you. Now, take a look at this. So, when we look at what they do, it says what we do: energy and buildings. Energy and buildings. The buildings that we live and work in cause nearly 6% of emissions in C40 cities, the average up to 80% in some cities. From energy use to power, heat or cool them, construction materials in the building sector are also responsible for almost a third of global resource consumption. The need for buildings and infrastructure will only intensify by 2025, so in a year and a half. We will need to build 1 billion homes. About 60% of buildings that will exist by 2050 haven't been built yet. That means constructing a city of the size of Stockholm or Milan every week until 2050, or a city the size of Singapore or New York every month. C40 supports cities in implementing ambitious building energy efficiency initiatives and catalyzing the cleaning up of energy supply in line with the 1.5 Celsius climate mitigation target. Now, they go through some of these programs and this and that, but one thing that's interesting is their cities. If you match up their cities and their locations, and you start to look at some of the worst cities impacted right now in office, and then you look at what the goals are, what the actual plan is, you can see that these cities are going to go through really, really big change. Now, what I think is going to happen is we're going to start seeing more and more office conversions to push office residential conversions to push this in line with the objectives listed here. Look at some of the names here. Austin, the first few, let's say Austin, Boston, and Chicago. And then we look at the worst, right? So we have Austin is right here. Let's see, Boston is right here. Is Chicago here? Yep, Chicago here. But like almost all of these are listed right here, the worst office vacancies by city. And so what I think is very likely going to happen is we're going to start to see zoning change in a very, very big way in many of these cities, and these cities are going to become very, very dense. And now when we look at how this is kind of playing out, it's really shocking. So we have 48% of debt on office properties that matures this year has a variable rate. So of the debt that has to mature this year, that is going to mature this year, half is variable. So, 2 years ago, that debt was 3%. Now it's 7.5%. And then you have record high insurance and taxes. You have situations like what's going on right now in San Francisco. It's CRE doom loop. Accelerates as Westfield abandons the largest San Fran mall, stops paying $558 million loan. For more than 20 years, Westfield has proudly and successfully operated in San Fran, investing significantly over that time, the vitality of the property, given the challenging operating conditions in downtown San Francisco, which have led to declines in sales, occupancy, and foot traffic. We have made the difficult decision to begin the process to transfer management of the shopping center to our lender to allow them to appoint a new receiver to operate the property going forward. The mall at 865 Market Street has multiple lenders tied to its commercial mortgage-backed securities. Those lenders weren't disclosed. The receiver determines what happens to the mall next. And you start to look at this. This comes after Nordstrom, which occupies 312,000 square feet in the mall, isn't renewing the lease. In August, after nearly 4 decades of operations, when Nordstrom closes, the mall will only be 55% leased, well below the average of 93% of other Westfield malls in the U.S. I'll leave this listed below, but it says, in the past several months, retailers including Whole Foods, T-Mobile, and many other stores have closed up shop after progressive city leadership fails to enforce law and order. San Francisco CRE meltdown is only accelerating, and the latest property foreclosures of major hotels and malls might be the start, right? It is going to be the start. It's not just in places like San Francisco. A lot of people want to just say, oh, it's just San Francisco. If you look at the list of these locations, basically every city in America operates like this. Miami's not on that list. You have certain areas, Miami's not on the list, Tampa's not on the list. But for the most part, most of the cities have very similar policies. Most of the cities have lost a lot of people, and a lot of these cities had very, very low cap rates, meaning very high prices to enter into the deals in relation to the cash flow that they were, spitting off for an investor, and very high risk. And so what's going to ultimately happen here? I believe we're going to see a lot of change, just like what the CEO of Goldman Sachs just said about paying ahead for commercial real estate. He went on to say, we think that we and others are marking down those investments given the environment this quarter and in the coming quarters. While the write-downs are definitely a headwind for the bank, they are manageable in the context of Goldman's overall business. They may be less manageable for smaller banks, however. About 2/3 of the industry loans are originated by regional and mid-sized institutions. That's just something that we're going to have to work through. There's probably going to be some bumps and some pain along the way for a number of participants. In the ranging interview, Solomon said that he was surprised by the resilience of the U.S. economy, right? And seeing green shoots emerge after a period. So we're going to start to see some very, very interesting things here. They're also saying that this commercial problem could collapse 300 banks, most of which are regional, because regional banks are holding just under 70% of all of these commercial loans. So it's fascinating things happening, right? They have this goal, right, of basically changing the entire world, and we have this situation right here where the everyday consumer has less and less and less money. So we're looking at this. What do we see here? We see consumers right here saying, the latest from BLS shows that we're still paying the hidden tax of inflation, and the average family effectively is $7,200 poorer than in January of 2021. So if you look at the average household income, one earner between right here, Florida, $55,000, Georgia, $55,000, Hawaii, $75,000, right? So if you just said, let's just say that we wanted to go high end, and not everyone's going to be a single, household. Not everyone's going to have 4 people in a household, because obviously 4 people might range about $100,000 per household collectively. So let's just call it $75,000 in median household income. If that is in fact true, and we have $7,200, basically a $7,200 tax and inflation tax, what do we have really? Well, basically a 10% loss of income, right? And so when we see what's happening right now with record high inflation and mortgage rates continuing to skyrocket, and this affordability crisis getting worse and worse and worse, and all these office buildings that are going to be in really, really big trouble, and a lot of these office buildings are held by these regional banks. The notes and loans are held by these regional banks. And then we have these deep-pocketed investors on the sidelines saying that we need to build cities, size of New York once a month for the next, several decades. What are they going to do? You look at all these cities, these office buildings can house so many people, and put everyone right there. What could very likely happen here is that many of these cities are going to start changing up the zoning, which is going to impact property values. And we could also see, and this is speculative, but we could also see these values of these properties start to go down because the neighborhoods will likely change if you bring in large groups of populations. Otherwise, how else could they build these cities? Where else would they put all these people if this is, in fact, the game plan? It's just a serious question. Where would they put all these cities if this is right here where they said they're C40 cities? This is the location. So if these are the cities, San Francisco, Seattle, Toronto, Toronto is not in America, but let's see if San Francisco and Seattle are on the list. I would bet San Francisco is number 1. Seattle is number 15, right? This is what's likely going to happen. They're going to start trying to put a lot of people inside of these cities, and I don't see a way in which they're going to be able to build single-family housing, right? So unless they're going to change zoning, unless they are going to, even if they change zoning, I don't think that would be enough. Maybe it would be, but they have these huge office buildings, 300, 400, 500,000 square feet. If they chop these up into 600, 700 square foot units, and they had very small common areas, they'd be able to pack people in there and really achieve that goal. What do you think of this situation? Where do you see all this going? To me, it looks like a lot of these commercial properties are going to get repriced. A lot of the cities are likely going to change. Again, this isn't something that's going to happen overnight, though. But if you look at the goals, a lot of these goals, they had their goal by, let's see here, it was 2025. So 2025, they'll need to build a billion homes. So, that's not like a decade away. It's a year and a half away. Are they going to achieve that? Probably not, right? I think we both know that. But they always do that, though. They'll set this really ambitious target, and then they'll push the deadline back, but they still keep moving everything forward just like that. So I think we're going to see some really, really big changes here. I think we're going to see a lot of developers and investors running on this train as well, because they're able to pick up all these properties and get government subsidies to build multifamily housing on single-family lots and do all these conversions. People are going to make a fortune doing all this stuff. But it's going to happen regardless. What do you think about it? Drop below. Let me know. This is nuts. This is absolutely crazy. But the last couple of years have been crazy for all of us, and I think the next few years are going to be a hell of a lot crazier. Drop below, hit the like button. If you want to fix your credit to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, we would love to help you at greatcreditfast.com. That's greatcreditfast.com. And add me on Instagram for short form content and content I won't post here at This Is John Williams. It's the same username as I have here. Catch you guys in the next video.